Daf Yomi Gananini Mamawe. Daf Yomi Masechet Shevuos. Page 25a. Unwittingly, today is Yom Yerushalayim, and for those of you who didn't catch that melody there, that was from the Lion King. And one of the symbols of Jerusalem is a lion, and you see it sometimes on the insignia, the lion of Judah, it's Jerusalem, so it's again a lion. So I think it's appropriate that came to me. But just if you happen to hear some noise outside, they're preparing some music. Today is Jerusalem Day, Yom Yerushalayim. Yom Yerushalayim. And so if there's any noise over there, please excuse the noise, or maybe I'll just move into a different room. But anyway, Daf Yomi Koni Wanichi Babawe Shavuot Perek Kaveh. I'm missing Daf Kaveh Amud E. The Gemara answers, we are speaking of sin offerings when we assert that the Mishnah lists only prohibitions for which one is liable to receive karet for their intentional violation. Ravina Amal Ki katani midi dechai lamidi deval achinahu shavu dechai lamidi laba achinahu lo katani. Ravina offered a different answer. He said, when the Tana teaches this case, he lists only those prohibitions that apply specifically to items that are edible. With regard to an oath, it is a matter that applies also to items that are not edible. And he does not teach that in the Mishnah. The Gemara asks, but doesn't that Mishnah include in its list the prohibition against deriving benefit from the misuse of consecrated property, which applies even to consecrated wood and stones? The Gemara answers, rather, when the Tana teaches this case, he lists those prohibitions that apply to tangible matters. With regard to an oath, it is something that also applies to intangible matters, such as I will sleep or I will not sleep. And the Tana does not teach it in that Mishnah. New Mishnah. The Mishnah says, Zog the Heilige Mishnah, Echad Devarim Shel Atzmo, V'echad Devarim Shel Acherim. V'echad Devarim Sheyesh Behem Mamash, V'echad Devarim She'ein Behem Mamash. If one unwittingly takes a false oath about the past, or breaks an oath he made about the future, both if it is an oath that addresses matters that concern oneself, and if it is an oath that addresses matters that concern others, he is liable to bring a sliding scale offering for an oath on an utterance. And likewise, an oath on an utterance may address both tangible matters and intangible matters. Ketzad, how so? Omar Shevuos she'etin lishploini v'shlo yetin sh'nesati v'shelo nasati. How so? Examples of oaths about the future actions that concern others are if one said, on my oath, I will give so-and-so a particular item, or on my oath, I will not give it to him. Examples of such oaths about the past are if one said, on my oath I gave another a particular item, or on my oath I did not give it to him. She'ishan v'shlo yishan, she'ishan v'shlo yishan, she'ezrek tzchol yam, v'shlo ezrok, she'zorakti, v'shelo zorakti. Pam achas nichnasti le'aktir ketoires, Pam achas zorakti. Examples of oaths about the future that address intangible matters are where one said, on my oath I will sleep, or on my oath I will not sleep. Examples of such oaths about the past, or one said, on my oath I slept, or on my oath I did not sleep. Other examples of oaths. I would think if someone says, I swear, I'm saying, I make an oath that I slept last night, I would consider that to be an oath in vain, because there's no reason to do that. Even if it's really true, I don't think that was the description given as an oath in vain. But personally, I would think that's an oath in vain, because why are you swearing that you slept last night? Why am I swearing that I ate lunch? Who cares? Why do you have to swear that you ate lunch? Why do you have to swear that you slept last night? I think that's in vain. I think I wouldn't be the only one that thought that as well. Other examples of oaths, but 10 letters of one takes an oath saying, I will throw a stone into the sea, or I will not throw it, or I throw it, or I did not throw it, or I did not throw it, or I did not throw it, every single one I say, or I did not throw it. Hey! Rabbi Yishmael Omer Nechai Hashem Asila Boi Shenem Ha'aleiti. Rabbi Yishmael says, one is liable only for an oath on the utterance taken about the future, as it is stated, if anyone take an oath clearly with his lips to do evil or to do good, whatsoever it be that a man shall utter clearly with an oath. Leviticus 5:4. The Torah refers explicitly only to oaths about what one will do in the future, meaning to do evil or to do good, meaning future. Rabbi Akiva said to him, Im kain ein li ela devarim sheyesh bohen amor tov, devarim sheyesh bohen amor tov minayin. I don't know. I think if it's good or bad, I think it would include everything else in between, right? But apparently Rabbi Akiva doesn't think so. Rabbi Akiva said to him, if so, and one is liable only for oaths explicitly mentioned in the verse, and I have derived only that one is liable for an oath on an utterance with regard to matters to which doing evil and doing good apply. Where do I derive that one is liable for an oath on an utterance with regard to matters to which doing evil and doing good does not apply? I would think if it's good or evil, it's not going to be anything else besides for those two. And everything in between, there's just lesser degrees of good or evil. I don't see what it doesn't apply to. Everything is good, unless it's not good. So that covers everything. Right? What's Rabbi Akiva talking about? What is Rabbi Akiva saying? Now, all these questions I ask, I don't write them down, usually. And I hope that every time I ask them, they get recorded somewhere. The ether. And, maybe they'll be answered one day. Rabbi Shmuel said to him, the halacha is, in these cases, is derived by amplification of the meaning of the verse. Rabbi Akiva said to him, if the verse is amplified for this, meaning to extend the halacha of an oath to an utterance to matters that do not involve doing evil or good, the verse is amplified for that, meaning oaths about the past. And that's the Mishnah, folks. That's the Mishnah. Now we start the Talmud, the Gemara. Zog the Haley Gemara. Tan Rabbanan Chaim ben Darim mi Shevuos Chaim ben Shevuos ben Darim Chaim ben Darim Shendan Chaim ben Mitzvah ben Mashus Ma she'en ken ben Shevuos. The Gemara says with regard to oaths about intangible matters, the sages taught there is a stringency that applies to vows and not to oaths, and there is a stringency that applies to oaths and not to vows. The stringency that applies to vows is that vows take effect with regard to a matter involving a mitzvah, like they take effect with regard to an optional matter, which is not the case with regard to oaths. An oath not to perform a mitzvah does not take effect at all. And like I think I commented last night, I think it goes to the category of masna mashikas v'toyre tonight batal, which means if you try to make a condition against, counter to anything in the Torah, it's like you said nothing at all. The stringency that applies to oaths is that oaths take effect with regard to an intangible matter, like they do with regard to a tangible matter, which is not the case with regard to vows. Ketzad, Amashua shetin leploini v'shloitin, ma yeteni lein v'tzedok leoni, the Mishnah teaches how so. Examples are, if one said, on my oath, I will give so-and-so some item, or on my oath, I will not give it to him. What is the case of an oath in which he says, I will give? If we say that he takes an oath that he will give charity to a poor person, that is not an oath that takes effect, since he is under oath from Mount Sinai to give charity. As it is stated with regard to a poor person, you shall give him. Where do we see the oath, though? We Nasim Nishma, that's what it was. We will do and we will hear. We will hear with your ear. Deuteronomy 15:10. Elamachana le'oshim, the case is where he said he would give a gift to a rich person. The oath takes effect as there is no mitzvah to do so. She'ishan v'shlo yishan eini. Be'omar v'yochanan. Ha'oim lo shvua shelo yishan shloisha yamim ma'kin oisai v'yoshin ya'al. The Mishnah teaches that if one takes an oath saying, I will sleep or I will not sleep, the oath takes effect, and he is liable to bring an offering if he fails to fulfill the terms of his oath. The Gemara asks, is that so? But doesn't Rabbi Yochanan say, in the case of one who says, on my oath I will not sleep for 3 days, the court flogs him immediately, and he may sleep, since it is impossible for one not to sleep for 3 days. That's the Gemara is saying, but I don't think that's true in reality. People are up with maybe they didn't have those drugs in those days, with certain amphetamines like crystal meth, or a person can be up for more than that. But anyway, apparently the Talmud didn't know this, so that's where we're at. His oath is regarded as an oath taken in vain from the outset. How could someone who took an oath never to sleep be liable to bring an offering for an oath on an utterance if he slept unwittingly? The Gemara answers that Rabbi Yochanan is referring to a case where he said explicitly that he will not sleep for 3 days. Here, the Mishnah is referring to a case where he did not say 3 days, and his oath extends only for the amount of time it is not possible to. It is amount of time it is possible not to sleep. She'ezroik tzro layam, v'shlo yezroik itmal. Shevuos shezak b'lo tzro layam, v'shlo yezroik. Rav Amar Chayav, Ushmu Amar Patu. The Mishnah teaches that an example of an oath on an utterance is where one took an oath saying, I will throw a stone into the sea, or I will not throw it. It was stated with regard to one who says, on my oath, so-and-so threw a stone into the sea, or on my oath, he did not throw it. Rav says if it was later discovered that what he said was false, he is liable to bring an offering for his oath. And Shmuel says he is exempt. Rav Amachayov, Ise B'lav V'hein, Ushmuel Amapatu Leise B'lava. The Gemara explains the opinions. Rav says that he is liable, as the oath can be positive or negative. The sages derive from the verse, or if anyone take an oath, clearly with his lips to do evil or to do good, Leviticus 5:4, that one is liable to bring an offering for an oath or an utterance only when the oath is such that it could be inverted from the positive to the negative and vice versa. Since he can take an oath neither that he drew the stone or that he did not, he is liable. And Shmuel says he is exempt, because the oath cannot be stated with regard to the future. He cannot control what so-and-so will do in the future. Consequently, it is an oath taken in vain rather than an oath on an utterance. Lema beplukta de Rabbi Ishmael Rabbi Akiva kamifligi. Ditnan Rabbi Ishmael omer Eino chayav ela al atid le'avo she'emar lehara o lehitiv. Amar lo Rabbi Akiva im kein eini el dvarim sheyesh bahem הרב יטוב הדבר שאין בהם הרב יטוב minayin. The Gemara asks, shall we say that they disagree with regard to the issue that is the subject of the dispute between Rabbi Yishmael and Rabbi Akiva? As we learn in the Mishnah, Rabbi Yishmael says he is liable only for an oath on an utterance taken about the future, as it is stated, or if anyone take an oath clearly with his lips to do evil or to do good, whatsoever it be that a man shall utter clearly with an oath. Leviticus 5:4. Rabbi Akiva said to him, if so, and if one is liable only for oaths explicitly mentioned in the verse, then I have derived only that one is liable for an oath on an utterance with regard to matters to which doing evil and doing good apply. From where do I derive that one is liable for an oath on an utterance with regard to matters to which doing evil and doing good do not apply? Amar lo meribo yakasuv. Amar lo im meriba yakasuv lechach riba hakasuv lekach. Rabbi Yishmael said to him, the halacha in these cases is derived by amplification of the verse. Rabbi Akiva said to him, if the verse is amplified for this, meaning to extend the halacha of an oath on an utterance to matters that do not involve doing evil or good, the verse is amplified for that, meaning oaths about the past. Rav Damar Rabbi Akiva, Shmuel Damar Rabbi Ishmael, say that Rav, who ruled that one who took an oath that so-and-so threw a stone into the sea is liable, states his opinion in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Akiva, that one can be liable for oaths in the past, and say that Shmuel states this opinion in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Ishmael, that one is exempt from liability for taking an oath about the past. Ali b'da Rabbi Ishmael kuli alma v'lo pligi hashtem mitzvadi yisrael lo mitchayev Rabbi Ishmael shelava milta delet b'harava mibaya. The Gemara rejects the suggestion. Everyone agrees that according to the opinion of Rabbi Ishmael, one is exempt from liability for taking an oath that so-and-so threw an item. Now, with regard to a statement, meaning an oath, that could be a valid oath referring to the future. For example, I will throw an item. Rabbi Ishmael does not deem one liable for it when it refers to the past. Is it necessary to say that one is not liable for a statement, meaning an oath, that so-and-so threw a particular item that cannot be valid oath? It cannot be a valid oath when adjusted to be referring to someone else's actions in the future, since it is not under the oath taker's control. When do they argue? When do they disagree? Rabbi Akiva. Rav Rabbi Akiva Shmuel Amar Ad Kan Lo Mechayev Rabbi Akiva Hasam L'Shavar Elam Nesadis L'Rava Mechayev Rabbi Akiva L'Shavar Aval Midei Telesei L'Rava La. When do they disagree? As regard to how to understand the halacha according to the opinion of Rabbi Akiva. They argue within the opinion of Rabbi Akiva. The opinion of Rav is in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Akiva without any qualification of it. And Shmuel says Rabbi Akiva deems one liable only there in the case of an oath that refers to the past, when it is a statement, meaning an oath, that could be a valid oath referring to the future. In such a case, Rabbi Akiva deems one liable only if the oath was taken referring to the past, like an oath where one says, I threw a stone. But with regard to statements that cannot be valid oaths if adjusted to the future, like an oath about another's action, he does not deem one liable when they are made about the past. Lema beplukta. The Gemara suggests, shall we say the dispute? And now we turn to 25b, top of the page. Top of the pageage. 25b, with the words, Rav Yehuda ben Beteha, Rabbanan Kamifligi. Titna nish palevatel mitzvah lo bitel pato. Lekayim es mitzvah lo kayam pato. שהיה בדין שיהא חייב, כדברי רבי יהודה בן מסיירו. דאמר רבי יהודה בן מסיירו, ומה אם הרשות שאין מושבע עליה מהר סיני, הרי הוא חייב עליה מצוות שמושבע עליה מהר סיני, אלא דין שיהא חייב עליה. Rather, let us say, the dispute is between these Amorim parallels as agreement between Rabbi Yehuda ben Matir and the rabbis. As we learned in a Mishnah on 27a, if one took an oath to refrain from performing a mitzvah and he did not refrain, he is exempt from bringing an offering for an oath on an utterance. If one took an oath to perform a mitzvah and he did not perform it, he is also exempt, though it would be fitting to argue that he is liable to bring the offering in accordance to the statement of Rabbi Yehuda ben Matir. Rabbi Yehuda ben Matir said, what? If with regard to an oath concerning optional matter for which one is not under oath from Mount Sinai, he is liable for breaking it. With regard to a mitzvah, which he is under oath from Mount Sinai, is it not logical that he would be liable for it? I mean, that's arguing a kal vachomer from the other way. Amr lo, the rabbi said to him, lo, no. Im amr b'shvuos shkein asa ba'alav kohen, tomar b'shvuos mitzvah shkein lo asa ba'alav kohen. The rabbi said to him, no. If you said that one is liable for breaking an oath concerning an optional action where Torah rendered one liable for a negative oath, not to perform it, like for a positive oath to perform it, shall you also say that one is liable for breaking an oath concerning a mitzvah where the Torah did not render one liable for a negative? I'm sorry, and it was not kahen, not kohen, it's kahen. Like them, an oath that render one liable for a negative oath, like for a positive oath. If one takes an oath to refrain from performing a mitzvah and he does not refrain, he is exempt. Ne'emar Rav Amar Rabbi Yehuda ben Maseira, Ushmud Amar Kerabanan. The Gemara asks, shall we say that Rav states his opinion in accordance with that Rabbi Yehuda ben Maseira, who holds that one can be liable for an oath that cannot be inverted? And Shmuel states his opinion in accordance with that of the rabbis, who hold that one can be liable only if the oath can be inverted. Aliba David Mesera Kulyam Labdigi Hashala Vehain Lo Abai Lehaba Vishaval Bai. The Gemara rejects this. Everyone, meaning both Rav and Shmuel, agrees with the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda ben Maseira that one is liable if he took an oath that so-and-so performed an action that he did not in fact perform. The Gemara explains, now, given that Rabbi Yehuda ben Maseira does not require that it be possible to refer a negative oath to a positive oath, does he require that it be possible for an oath to refer to the future as well as to the past? Shmuel explained that the reason one is not liable for an oath that so-and-so threw a stone into the sea is that it cannot be inverted to address the future. In other words, so-and-so will throw a stone into the sea, as that is not under the oath taker's control. Ki pligi. When do they disagree? Shmuel Kabanan v'Rav ki lo mechayv v'Rabbanan belav v'hen. Belav v'hen. Tichsiv l'ara o leitiv. V'hedya al lehaba ki l'shavar be'meribuya. When they disagree, it is regard the opinion of the rabbis. Shmuel holds like the rabbis that one is exempt in the case of an oath that cannot be inverted. Accordingly, Shmuel ruled that one who takes an oath that so-and-so threw an item is exempt from bringing an offering if it is found that the statement was false. And Rav holds that the rabbis do not deem one liable in the case of an oath that cannot be inverted from negative to positive or vice versa, as it is explicitly written explicitly, or if anyone take an oath clearly with his lips to do evil or to do good, Leviticus 5:4. But with regard to the requirement that it be possible to invert an oath referring to the future, to refer to the past or vice versa, which is derived from an amplification of the meaning of the verses, the rabbis deem one liable as they do not accept the derivation. Masi Rav Hamnuna lo achalti hayom velo inachti tefillin hayom mashbiach ani ve'amar amen chayav bishlom lo achalti ete velo ochel ela lo inachti mi ete velo anya. Rav Hamnuna raises an objection to Shmuel's opinion from Mishnah 29b. If one said, I did not eat today, or I did not don tefillin today, I did not put on tefillin today. And another said to him, I administer an oath to you that your statement is true. And the original speaker said, Amen. He is liable for breaking an oath on an utterance if a statement was false. As responding to Amen to an oath administered to oneself is equivalent to stating the oath explicitly. Granted, he is liable in the case where he said, I did not eat, since it would have been possible for him to take an oath saying, I will not eat. But in the case where he said, I did not don phylacteries, would it be possible for him to take an oath saying, I will not don phylacteries, and in doing so, abrogate a positive mitzvah? Weiter. Hamoshiv la, hu mefarek la, this is Tadin Katani. Lo achalti lekorban, lo inachti lemalikos. He, Rav Hamnuna, raises the objection. He resolves it. The Tana teaches this mission disjunctively, referring to two different cases. When he teaches that one is liable for taking the oath, I did not eat, it refers to one's liability to bring an offering. When he teaches liability for the oath, I did not don tefillin, it refers to one's liability to receive lashes for taking a false oath. This liability does not require that it be possible to invert the oath to refer to the future. Mesiv Rove ein ezehi Yehoshua nishba l'shanis yidua le'adam v'yamar al amud shel even shu b'makom ploni shu shel zahav v'yamar ula v'hu shnikar l'shlosha b'nei adam ta'amad nikar lo nikar over mishum Shevuot bitui v'amai ha'eno yehi shel zahav. Okay, so here's what I was talking about. Rava raised an objection to Shmuel's opinion from Mishnah and 29a. So they explain what is an oath taken in vain. I would think anytime you swear an obvious thing is taken in vain. If I ate lunch 10 minutes ago, I say, I swear I ate lunch 10 minutes ago. That's an oath taken in vain. Why did you have to swear about that? You know? Which oath is an oath taken in vain? It is when one takes an oath to deny that which is known to people to be true, and for example says about a stone column that it is in such and such a place and is made of gold. Now that is a false oath, and I don't see why that is a vain oath. I mean, it's vain, sure, because there's no point to say it, but it's much worse than vain. It's actually not true, or it's much different than vain. Worse or better, but anyway, that's my question. Be true, for example, someone about a stone column. Someone says about a stone that it is such and such a place, and it's made of gold, and Ula says the phrase known to people in the Mishnah is referring to when it is a fact that is known to three people. The Gemara explains the objection to Shmuel's opinion. The reason is he is liable for taking an oath in vain is due to the fact that his oath contradicted a fact known to three people. But if it is not known, he violates the prohibition of taking a false oath on an utterance. Given Shmuel's opinion, why should he be liable? Isn't it impossible to invert the oath to make it about the future, saying the column will be of gold? Interesting. It will be of gold. Yerushalayim shel zahav. Today's Yerushalayim Day. Okay. Ha mosif la. In fact, I live across the street from a place called Yerushalayim Shel Zahav, Jerusalem of Gold. Very perfect for today. המוסיף לה ומפרק לה ניכר עובד משום שבועת שווא וניכר עובד משום שבועת שקר. He raises the objection and a result. המוטיב לה והמפרק לה. He raises the objection and he answers it. That's a really good vocabulary word. It's a good gematria. So let's see. 978. He answers it and he himself answers it. He raises the objection and resolves it. When the fact is known to three people, the one who takes an oath denying it violates the prohibition of taking an oath in vain. If it is not known, then he violates the prohibition of taking a false oath, for which he receives lashes if he did so intentionally. Nevertheless, he is not liable to bring an offering or falsely taking an oath on an utterance, since this oath cannot be inverted to be about the future. Amar Abaye, שאני יודע לך עדוס וישתכח דלא ידע לדיפתו הויר לס בכלל שאני יודע לך עדוס. Abaye said, and Rav, who holds one liable for an oath on an utterance, even if it cannot be inverted to refer to the future, concedes. In a case where one says to another, on my oath, I know testimony that is relevant to you, and it is found afterwards that he did not know testimony that was relevant to him. In that case, he is exempt from bringing an offering for an oath on an utterance. The reason is that it is not in the category of an oath that could be inverted to a negative oath of, I do not know testimony that is relevant to you, as that oath would be an oath of testimony rather than an oath of utterance. The Torah states, and if anyone sin in that he hears the voice of adjuration, he being a witness, whether he has seen or known, if he does not utter it, then he shall bear his iniquity. Leviticus 5:1. One is liable to bring an offering for an oath of testimony if he takes an oath falsely denying that he has knowledge of testimony in a monetary matter. Yadati velo yadati machloikis he'aditi velo he'aditi machloikis. But if he takes an oath saying, I knew testimony that is relevant to you, or I did not know testimony that is relevant to you, the halacha is subject to this view between Rav and Shmuel. Similarly, if he took an oath saying, I testified or I did not testify, whether or not he is liable to bring an offering for an oath on an utterance depends on the dispute between Rav and Shmuel. In these cases, the oaths cannot be inverted from the past to the future and are also not oaths of testimony, since they do not involve the refusal to testify. The Gemara says, granted according to the opinion of Shmuel, who says that an oath about a matter that cannot be inverted to refer to the future is one with whom one is not liable when it refers to the past. It is for the reason that the merciful one removed an oath of testimony which cannot be inverted from the category of an oath on an utterance and legislated it in a separate verse, see Leviticus 5:1, but according to the opinion of Rav, for the halacha, did the merciful one remove it from the category of an oath on an utterance and relate it as a distinct category. Every oath of testimony is a case of an oath on an utterance, and there is no need to relate it as a special case. The sages said before, by an oath of testimony is singled out according to Rav in order to render one who takes it falsely liable to bring two sliding scale offerings for it, one for a false oath on an utterance and one for a false oath on testimony. Amar lahu tarti lamatzitu amritu detani leachas mele leachas ata mechaybo ve'iyata mechaybo. Abaye said to them, you cannot say that one who takes a false oath of testimony is liable to bring two offerings, as it is taught in a brayta with regard to a sliding scale offering that is brought for both the oath of the testimony and oath of utterance. The verse states, and it shall be when he shall be guilty of one of these things, Leviticus 5:5, by inference, for one of the sins that render one liable to bring a sliding scale offering, you may deem him liable, but you may not deem him liable for two. The Gemara asks, and if this is so, then according to Abaye's understanding, the opinion of Rav, for what halacha did the merciful one remove an oath of testimony from the category of an oath on an utterance and relate it to it as a distinct category? The Gemara answers, an oath of testimony is singled out as it's on the Braita. For every one of the prohibitions for which one is liable to bring a sliding scale offering, it is stated in the verse, and it is hidden from him. So Leviticus 5:2-4. And here, with regard to the oath of testimony, the phrase, and it is hidden from him, it is not stated. It is not stated that this serves to render one liable to bring an offering for taking a false oath of testimony intentionally, like one who is liable for doing so unwittingly. The sages said to Abaye, say that the oath of testimony is singled out for a different reason. When he takes the false oath of testimony intentionally, he is liable to bring only one offering, but when he does so unwittingly, he is liable to bring two. One for an oath of testimony and one for an oath of utterance. Abaye said to him in response, is this not what they said in a Braita with regard to the verse about the sliding scale offering? When he is guilty, we shall be guilty of one of these things. Leviticus 5:5. By inference, for one of these sins that render one liable to bring a sliding scale offering, you may deem him liable, but you may not deem him liable for two. And since one does not bring an offering for an intentional false oath or an utterance, if the verse is referring to a case where he intentionally took a false oath of testimony, how could there be a case where one is liable to bring two offerings, such as this case needs to be excluded? Cases such as these need to be excluded. Consequently, the verse must be referring to a case where he took the oath unwittingly, and it teaches that nevertheless one brings only one offering for each violation. Rava said in response to the question posed by the sages, there is no need to derive from a verse that one is liable to bring only one offering for a false oath of testimony, since an oath of testimony is a matter that was included in a generalization, meaning the general principle of an oath on an utterance, and it was singled out to teach a new matter, Dvar Chadash. With regard to it, if you have only the new matter alone to consider, since any oath of testimony is singled out in that it applies only to potential witnesses in the context of a court, a case of an oath of testimony ceases to be included under the rubric of an oath on an utterance. Michlal, we see from here, the Gemara asks, should we understand by inference that Abaye holds that in cases of an oath of testimony, the oath on an utterance still exists in principle? One does not bring two offerings because of the halachot derived from the verse, but if for some reason the oath of testimony does not take effect, one may still be liable for an oath on an utterance. But didn't Abaye say that Rav concedes that one is exempt from bringing an offering for an oath on an utterance in a case where one says to another, on my oath, I know testimony that is relevant to you, and it was found that he did not know the testimony that was relevant to him. In that case, he is exempt from bringing an offering for an oath on an utterance, since it is not an oath that could be inverted to the negative oath. I do not know testimony that is relevant to you, as that oath would be an oath of the testimony rather than the oath of an utterance. Hadar be Abaye mehib. The Gemara answers, Abaye retracted that opinion, and if you wish, say we should be continued tomorrow. We made it through the Daf today.